exporting to the cloud, and we're ready to roll. Right. So welcome to GT Tuesdays, and actually this will be the last one for 2021. And we'll still get to it. You've seen our mission statement and really looking at how we're going to increase awareness, promote equitable access, and improve outcomes for all special populations. And as you know, special populations, and I do need to update this slide because as you know, English Learner Support is changing over their title to Emerging Bilinguals. And we have our highly mobile and at risk. And then our own population, gifted and talented, where we are really working and rolling out there. We're getting it done. And so today we're just going to do a little GT information, but we're really going to be talking about our GT funds, our GT expenditures, and then any share outs or any information you want or questions you have, we will take those and talk about those today also. So hopefully everyone is staying well as we're in this season where our temperatures are changing, and hopefully no one's having a candy overload from Halloween that you did not give out, that you kept for your own personal stash. So, but if not, take it to work. Your coworkers will love you and be mad at you. Also, take that candy on. Don't leave it at home. And then, but you know, stay warm, stay comfortable as our temperature change. And remember, time falls back this weekend. So just remember. But I hope everyone's doing good. I see all the good mornings and all the wellness out there. So good to know. So as our state definition, and I'm not going to read it all today, but really looking at same age, experience, and environment. So really looking at those kids who are showing potential and who are performing at, and how are we providing that. And then our state goal is going into that area also of really looking at how do they demonstrate those skills and that self-directed learning and those innovative products and performances. And that's where you're really thinking about what we're going to talk about today is when we're talking about our funding and expenditures. What are you doing to support and looking at the background of how do we make sure that the educators, the systems and the processes and the materials that we have out there are helping to our students to meet those goals in our programs and into our different things, and making sure that they have those quality products that we're looking for. And so GT Tuesdays, as you know, these are our topics, and feel free to sign up or to suggest a topic when you sign up and for our meeting dates as we go in. And just a reminder, our next meeting will be January 18th, taking with Thanksgiving, Gifted Ed, Gifted Plus, Gifted 21, trying to think what date it is, but December, the first week of December, then going into December, Christmas holidays, and then New Year's. It was just easier just to like push it back. And so we're going to meet, our next meeting is January 18th. And so just reminder of that. And then, so you got time if you want to think about what do you want to talk about, want to share about, or partner in crime to talk about, share, or just really just have an open conversation, a think tank session, which is always good. This is that venue for that. Okay, so GT funds. So as we get into this, just know that we did have House Bill 1525, and what that did was added in the section 48.019. Yes, January 18th is the next GT Tuesday. I'm sorry, I get distracted in a minute. And we're talking about our gifted and talented allotment. And so that will be the date, that is our new GT allotment, the section 48.09 in the Texas Education Code. And what that did was added an annual allotment equal to the basic allotment multiplied by that 0.07, multiplied by the number of enrolled students in a GT program. That more than that 5% of your district's ADA, and it must be providing GT programming, must account for those expenditures of state funds, and then if you fail to implement a program, the district must refund the allotment. So we're just talking about the allotment. And then it repealed section 29.124, which was the big part of HB3 that put a lot of details into what we were doing. Now, some of those things still stayed, and some of them still affect what we're doing for our programs. It just was realigned another place. We're going to get into allowable expenses in a little bit. So looking at our allotment, so just know for each identified student, you still have to, that you have a program for your students, and you still certify to the commissioner that you're complying with the state plan. And then that is where you get your allotment. And so basically it's going in with the premise that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, how do we certify? We still are using our certification timeframe, where we're starting our school system. We're doing our October 31st district level of identification. So you should have just done that. Our first PEEM snapshot. Remember, that was our first PEEM snapshot. Right now, I want to say up until December, around the 4th or something to that effect, you have time if you need to clean up any of your PEEMS identification. So right now, our 2 PEEMS identification areas are identified and served GT students, and then your district level coding. So those still are 2 things that are still in place that we implemented as a part. Well, you always were identifying and serving and coding them in PEEMS. When we moved into HB3, we added in the district level identifier, sorry about that. And it still stays. So we're still using that identifier. Then we'll have our March 1st, where we are identifying our kinders, and they are still being identified at part. And any other new students that you're identifying and adding into the system. And then finally, June is where we do our program intent code 21. And so that's where you're talking about the funding, where you're reporting on the funding part of how did you spend your money. So just real high level, just remember, identify and serve, make sure that they're coded correctly in PEEMS, and then make sure that all of your programs, with the programs and the options that you have, you can identify more than one. So it's not just that one area. So you can identify all of your programs that you are serving in your district. So still breaking down with this new state allotment, where our GT allotment. So really looking at making sure that those programs, your general administrative costs must be used to provide programming for GT students. So remember, it's talking about programs and what are you doing? And that does include if you have international baccalaureate in advanced programming or other developing programs for your GT students. So remember, if these are programs for your GT students, make sure you do that. That's where when I always say, make sure that you define what your program is. Make sure that it's clear. So when an auditor comes in or someone else, they can see the alignment and where all of your expenditures are going. So and then each district must account for the expenditure of state funds. So that's where you're doing your program intent code 21. And then that's where if by the 12th month of receiving allotment that you have failed to implement a program, that is where your funds will be refunded. So think about just really making sure that you are staying in line with expenses and going forward. So just really in a nutshell, provide GP programs for your GT students, must account for the expenditures, and then must refund the allotment if you fail to implement a program. So that's real high level. That is basically what it is. And then the next piece is, remember, we still have our district's average daily attendance at 5%. And that's, remember, of the district, not your enrolled. So enrolled is, or not enrolled, excuse me, not your GT students. That's where we start with the 0.07. But when we're looking at the 5%, that's your entire district, okay? And not just your population. Then just really wanted to remind you that we do have the basic allotment allocation, where it's in the basic allotment. So that general fund where most of our funds come into the district, you have that 0.12 there in that allocation. And then in your GT allotment, you got the 0.07. Remember, of that of those two funding categories, your GT allotment, 100% of that goes towards GT programming. So the basic allotment, that one is where it's going to be a little bit more district control on how much you spend, but on that GT allotment. So think of allocation out of the basic. Allotment, GT, 100% of that has to be into that link, to that program. So what link are you looking for, Cheryl Harris? Not sure. Oh, so the link to this is to the administrator addressed. 1 minute. Thank you, Meredith. My friends are out there. Got it. All right. Perfect. Okay. So that equals to your GT funding. And all of this still needs to be reported using your program intent code 21. And then using and then the link that she asked about is to the administrator address that came out September, I want to say, that came out that talked about our funding, talked about that you are still able to use the basic allotment allocation and the GT allotment to equal out all of your GT funding. So I know basically these are just talking about your state funds. I know a lot of you still use local funds to support and implement your programs. So really looking at that. Now, and then I'll get into your questions about this in the chat. So recently just published, and it's published periodically, but the most recent, where if you want to know how much funds that you have, go to tea.texas.gov, and this is a summary of finances, and then go to finances and grants, and it might be just easier. So let me do a new share. So we're on the TA website, finances and grants. Two ways you can get to it: state funds reports and data, or summary of finances reports. And we're just going to click there. And today will be the day it wants to move slowly, but we're good. And then under report, state summary of finances. And then do I have a person that will allow me just to say I could choose your school district to show your funds? So someone just drop it in the chat.
You can choose me.
Nancy, where are you from? Oh,
Socorro.
What was that?
Socorro.
Socorro.
You can't find that. Pearland's good too.
Okay, I got Socorro right there. And then we're going to hit submit. And then as you see, these have been updated. So some were placed last Friday, the 29th. And then these came out on, you see multiples came out on the 1st. So I just typically choose the PDF. I should not probably have done that one today. Let's see where it will load up and pop. HTML. Might be on that same page. That's loading. There we go. All right, does everyone see the document? And if you
Yes, ma'am.
scroll, all right, marvelous. So if you scroll to line 28, and you will see your funding amount. So this is how much funds that are being sent into your district for GT programming. So this is how much, and it gives that note. So all your finance people see this, know it's there, and they know this amount. They've been told the same information and given this information as we've been going through. So this,
Monica,
yes,
this is Paulina with GAGT. Good morning.
good morning.
I have a question. Is this number that we're seeing on the screen, is this worth the 0.07 new allotment? Or is it the combination of your spreadsheet on the basic allotment plus the new allotment?
So this one right here is your new allotment, the 0.07. Because out of the basic allotment where is that one? That's line 16. That one is without all the funds broken down. That is where in your probably also your line 19, your regular program allotments, where a district can take however much they want. So that's a district decision on how much money they take out of those programming and put them into program services.
This is Leon. I'm from Dickinson, and I pulled up my report as you went along, and I have nothing in my pick codes for GT at all. So what does that mean?
Okay, send me a note and we find out what's going on there, and then I will investigate.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Hey, Monica, this is Chris from Conroe. What report was that when you pulled it down in the dropdown?
Okay, so let me close here.
Summary of finance report. Thank you.
And go back. Yeah, summary of finance report. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So let me get back to our share.
Hey, Monica.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm sorry, I do have a question.
I heard. Is it Janine?
Yes.
Okay.
Comal ISD. So I also pulled up the report, but I noticed the most recent one we have filed is from June, and that was before the new allotment legislation went in. Could it just be that our districts, if we're not listed there, GT is not listed on that report, could it be that they just haven't submitted an updated one since then?
So I think way it's looking is it appears to be coming in pieces, sections by sections. So if you do, you should have one. Are you on 21-22 or are you on 2021?
I am on 21-22, and I realized that I looked at my list wrong, and the first one was June. The latest one is November. So let me go back and click on the November one versus the June one.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the same
You're
thing
welcome.
for Leon. So you could ignore the one from Dickinson because I looked at a more recent one and found it. So never mind.
I just
problem.
assumed the most recent one would be at the top.
It is not at the top. No, it's at the very bottom. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the very bottom. Yeah, they do it a little bit differently at the very bottom. So yeah, look at the very bottom with finances, different mindsets. Okay, so I'm gonna go back before and make sure I got all the questions. So we got the link. We got that. The links in the chat. Question. And so someone, some offenses, and has anyone had success working with your business office in sharing the estimate of GT funding from the basic allotment and actually being able to use those funds? Anyone want to speak on that?
Conroe has. We started that process when I got into this position. and pulled a detailed report. So you can ask your finance department to pull a detailed report of your GT finances. And that's where you can start looking at where your money is going. Is it going mainly to salaries? You've got all this money to spend for GT, and is it being allocated correctly? And is it growing your program? So I have in full recovery of our budget, and oversee that budget now.
Okay, Chris, that brings up my question because our business office is saying that if 100% of it goes to salaries, that we're covered as offering a program, which is what their lawyers told them.
So how are you growing the money if you don't have money to spend towards the program other than salaries? Would be my question to them.
That was my question.
Okay.
So out of that money, they give me a local that I can start spending on my growing the program. And then also it goes to salaries. It does, but there are also funds that we earmark just for me to grow the program.
Okay. In Pearland, we have our own budget for GT and advanced academics, and I have to differentiate between if it's just for gifted or if it's for other advanced programs. And our CFO doesn't hesitate to tell me we spend way more than the allotted amount for GT, but the department does control the majority of the funding. Now, with respect to salaries, HR does that, and that's in addition to, and in order to, for us to say it's a GT teacher and that salary counts, that teacher has GT kids only all day. Doesn't have anybody who's not identified gifted. So that's GT specific only. And one thing we did several years ago was to ensure we always had the allotment was we identify more than 5%. So because if you know, at the end of in May, you graduate your seniors, and then in the following September, you don't have kindergarten identified yet. So you're down a little bit from your enrollment. So if you're only at 4 or 5%, you're not going to get your full funding allotment. So it'd be good to get advantageous, I think, for your district to have 6, 7, or even 8% identified.
In Irving, we serve self-contained. And so what I have to do is sometimes we have teachers who teach a section of GT and then they teach a section of gen ed and they flip-flop the kiddos. So what I have to do is I have to go through once our schedules are all stabilized, and I have to go through and I have to look at every single schedule for all of our teachers and determine what percentage they teach GT. And I have to give that to our CFO. And it has every single campus, the list of teachers that qualify that teach GT kids at least 50% of their day. And then they have to split fund those teachers. So they have to split fund them 21 and then whatever their regular one, 14 or whatever that is. So 11 or something. So they have to split fund them 21 and 11 down there. And it takes them a little bit to get that done. But usually by December, January, I have them that whole list for the district. And that's what they use. We spend way more than our allotment on salaries. But then I also have my own in-house budget, and some of it's earmarked for gifted, some of it's earmarked for advanced academics, some of it's secondary, that's secondary allotment. So I have a little bit of that, like for some of our advanced programs and things like that.
Any others? All right.
Hey, Monica,
So-
Pauline again, sorry. I think it's important to clarify whether from your lips and TEA, is there a cap goal or recommendation on the percentage of students that are identified as GT?
There is no cap and there is no goal in gifted education. We are looking to ensure that we meet all of the student needs in our districts and in our state, and to make sure, and luckily, for the last few years, we've really just kind of trickled up, for several years, we were like 7 Now we're in the 8s, and we're just slowly trickling up in our 8 percentages, but there is no cap. There is no limit on how many students you can identify. There is no goal for that. Now, you may have your own, really looking at your numbers and looking at your populations to say, this is where we need to have the areas of growth. Now, it depends on your student population as they come in. You know your identification process, you know your program services, and you know your capacity. So really looking at how do you get to that next level? How do you get to that? Making sure that you are having equitable services and that you're meeting the needs of your students. So do not allow anyone to say there is a cap. There is no cap. There is no goal. Now, just to be realistic, we're not doing 100% of our student population. Okay, that's one thing we also got to also remember is, because you have some of those administrators who would like to say everyone's gifted and we're going to identify all. We can't do that either. So because we have to maintain the integrity of our own program. So I hope that helps.
Every child is a gift,
Yes,
but not every child is in need of services for gifted.
that is true. That is true. All right. And so that gets us into our GT expenditures. How are we using these funds that we have received? So we're looking at program intent code 21. And really, when you think about it, you got costs that are incurred related to your GT programs, or those advanced placement courses that are designated by as gifted. So those are the things that you're looking for. So if you designate your International Baccalaureate to be a part of that, your advanced placement courses can be a part of that, or some other things that you're really doing high level, some of your dual credit. Some of those things will allow for to be used with your GT funds. The others have funds that can be used, and that's on the other side, the darker orange. Your honors college preparatory courses, they have funds. They have a PIC code 11 that you can put money over there. Advanced placement has money over there that they can use. There are summer camps, field trips that they can use before they hit your money, and they have other sources. So really thinking about how do you use, making sure that some of these things that they're charging out to you really could go somewhere else. So really think about how do we get to that next, making sure that we're knowing that, okay, this AP teacher who may be teaching, 2 classes might really actually be better served actually being paid out of PIC 11 instead of splitting her funds out of yours, okay? So just thinking about that. So as we go to about allowable expenditures, and there's a couple of slides we're going to talk about. So one is your textbooks and other instructional materials, which are guided by your state plan. So really, we talked about earlier, those program resources, how are those related? So anything you're thinking about purchasing, always remember and always know how can you relate it back to the state plan? How can you earmark how that is related to what you're doing to meet the program goals? And then, so what are you doing? Salaries for your GT specialists that serve only GT students in the GT program. And then if you're paying out stipends for providing services to our GT students only, that can be a part of, and that's outside of the regular school day, that can be a part of some of your allowable expenditures for gifted and talented. So this is just the first. So textbooks and other instructional materials. So you got to think, because I remember first coming on, it's like, can we pay for AP textbooks? Is that a part of your AP program, or is it a part of your specialized GT AP program? So really think about how does all kids relate from this or what? Okay, so Donna, you got a question? I just see my name out there. Or is that under for another money? Okay.
Sorry, it was for I think it was a question that keeps popping up is I guess we wanted to clarify where the funding from House B3 went or still is, and is the 0.07 above that original funding that came from House Bill 3, or did that funding go away?
Okay, so what the funding from House Bill 3 went into the basic allotment. That 0.12 went into the basic allotment, which became an allocation for gifted and talented. That money is still there. That money was never truly I would say secure about how much you can spend and how much you are to spend on your GT programming. Okay. That was left to the local decision of really, as you remember, with our previous GT allotment and with this GT allotment, you had designated amount you had to spend on your GT program. What happened when it moved to HB3 and into that allocation, you had money, and that's why we were always publishing that earmarked GT estimated funds, because a district could actually literally say, we're going to spend $1 on our GT program, or we're going to spend $150,000 on our GT program. That was a local district decision. We had no control over that. We cannot say you had to spend this amount on GT. So with the last legislative session and the cleanup from HB3 and some of those things, it was decided that we do need a GT allotment to protect our funds, protect how much we are spending to our program, but the intent was always also to keep both funding. So that is why you'll see at this point where you see the basic allotment allocation really kind of out there, still there, but it does not have that 100% funding amount with the new GT allotment of the 0.7. Did that help?
It did. Sorry, we were just, I think there's just a lot of different questions and different angles people were looking at it. I just wanted to make sure I clarified.
No problem, no problem. It is confusing, but the intent was that you did have the funds in your basic allotment, and then the specific allocated funds in the GT allotment with the new establishment of 48.09. Okay.
Thank you, Monica.
You're welcome. So yes, so the new allotment is different from that point 1.12. And so that's going to be what's still that estimated sheet that's still on my GT webpage. So that is a different funding amount. What you see in your summary of finances is going to be that specific 0.07. Go back to this one. So Amber, was this the slide you were looking for? Okay, okay. So this is on program 21. So basically, and then, and the funny thing is all of it will go to this coding. So it just, even if you're doing some of your own local funding. Okay, I want to make sure I got all questions before I go to keep moving. All right. So continue with allowable expenditures. Professional development for your administrators and teachers, which are, still looking at our funds and our processing. And then our advanced placement courses designated as part of your GT program, all of your GT services for your students. And then, still can use some of the funds, and the legislator will, you can use it for math counts, problem solving, Odyssey in the Mind, academic decathlon, as long as they are to train or provide GT services. So remember, tie it back to GT services, to your programming, and to what are you doing day to day. So I'm looking at the chat. Is there a percentage of time a teacher must spend teaching GT students during the school day to be able to code them? Program 21. So I'm gonna put it this way. The state does not dictate how much time a teacher or how much program services that you are to provide. That is a local district decision. So you can come up with that decision as how much time you want to allocate for that. And as long as your finance people, your HR, however it's gonna go, everyone knows this is the amount of time that we're using for that process. So make sure everyone's clear. So on that part. And then I would actually also think of that on your secondary. If they are not teaching your GT specified courses all day, And if they only have 1 or 2 sections, you might be only paying. If you, as I said earlier, when we looked at this slide, where you have your college honors and your advanced courses, they need to be, a majority of their salary needs to be coming out of program intent code 11 and not out of your program intent code 21. Okay, so really thinking, and it might be just sitting down, working with your finance people and your schedule, and then it might be having those conversations with your scheduling department, your counselors and your friends there to say, this is how you got, these kids have to be scheduled together, or really looking at how many kids are in a program and during the day for that teacher to be accounted for that self process. So it really takes a moment to really think about, how do you want to do that? What are you doing? And then how, and what are your options? And so anyone else on allowable expenditures? So that takes us to our question and answers. Anyone else want to share about what they're doing, their finance issues? And then, because we can figure it out and work it out, hopefully. Any other questions? I think I got them all out of the chat.
Monica, can you go back to Leon's question about, is the 0.07 a one-time for this year, or is it going to be the same funding moving forward?
That is moving forward. That is a part of state law now. So that code will not be going until the next, let's put it this way. It will be going forward. And then here's the thing that you can, maybe advocate with your legislators at the next session, is to either increase it or maintain it. That is the legislative options. We are not necessarily the ones to do that, but you can do that and working with a TAGT to advocate either to increase it but at least maintain it. And so no, we are not, as far as I know, it is not on the chopping block. So it will be there. I think people understood that we are wanting a definite process. So GT conferences for coordinators and pull-out programs. So yes, if it is a GT program conference, because that is part of your program, that's part of their professional learning, then yes, that is allowable. So no, let me clarify. So if it is a summer enrichment camp for GT students only, yes, it can be paid out of program intent code 21. So just remember, because you can tie that back to the state plan, because we do have a section in the state plan under, is it service design or curriculum instruction? I think it's service design, that actually speaks to other opportunities and outside of the regular school day. So that will fit there. So let's see, make sure I'm catching all of my questions. So here's the thing, you spend 100% of your amount for your GT funds. Make sure you spend, before you make sure that they allocate out your allotment fully as you go through your programs. And then make sure if you don't spend it all, it's not going to reduce from year to year, but you really want to always push the issue with your finance people and with others to say, we are spending our money, or if not, you're overspending. I know that's kind of weird to say, but to prove the fact that it is a needed fund. If you don't spend it all, people are like, they don't need the money. You just got to remember, that's where they go. If you don't spend it, they're going to think you don't need the money. So if you can spend it almost to the penny, or you know, a penny over, they're like, okay, we got to figure out how we can make sure that you have the funds to do what you need to do. Let me see, got that one. Yeah, that's a new one. So yeah, parent meetings and trainings, because that is a part of our state plan, and they should not be denying that. But
Yeah, this is Nancy, sorry, from Socorro. Oh, I shouldn't have probably said Socorro. Now everybody knows they didn't want to fund it. Yeah, because they kept throwing these slides at me and saying it's not listed. It's not an allowable expenditure. And I had to bring out the state plan and say, but it says right here that we have to do this. So it might be something that maybe it needs to be added to the slide so that we can.
Yeah, and I will talk to our finance department also to make sure that that is included. We can include that, any allowable expenditures. Because basically, yeah. Well, and it should really follow under gifted and talented services. Even though it says for students, you got to still work with their parents so that the parents will know what the students are getting. Gotcha. Okay. I will work that out. Thank you for that one. So yes, for your summer programs, yes, you can use your GT funds for your GT students, and then for your other students to do program of content 11. Yes. I was posting it this morning. I did not get a link back to say it was live. So it may be on the website. I did do it this morning. If not, maybe it'll pop up before the day is out. Yeah, it hasn't came up yet. So we'll see when they publish it. But I did put that out for publication this morning. But let's see. You know, it always has a little issue. If I can drop it in the chat. And while I'm doing that, any other questions, wonderings? And you covering. So you will find it under the Gifted Education resources off of my GT page. I have been trying to make sure everything is there lately. Chat. Thank you. All right, so while I'm looking to drop that, any share outs, any happenings, anyone want to share out with the group? We'll come back if there's any, but at this time, Ms. Paulina Van Eden Hill with Texas Education Association for the Gifted and Talented. Feel free to unmute, and do you need to screen share, Paulina?
I don't. I was actually just gonna chat my question, which is anybody going to NAGC? And if so, DM me. We're gonna try to do a meetup of Texas folks. So that's next week or the week after in Denver. Would love to see you there. And then, of course, Gift Ed is, let's see, what's today? The 2nd. Gift Ed is 29 days away. And we're going to be in Dallas and online and hoping to see a lot of you there. The early bird registration discount, which includes group registration, does close on Monday, November 8th. So if you haven't gotten your list in yet, do that. We'll take your list even without a PO, just to get you in the system at the discounted rate. We can work out the rest later. So if we haven't heard from you, give us a ping. And then if you haven't booked your hotel. So I know this is something that we're all used to do several times a year. And then I attended an event in June where a colleague of mine had a hotel room and had not registered. I had to check like 3 times, did I get a hotel room for NAGC? Because I'm just out of the habit. So I just want to make sure that you remember to book your room for Dallas if you're there. And then last time, I think last Tuesday that we met, I asked if you're new to this position to message me, and I was shocked by how many of you did, and reached out to you. If you didn't get my message, please let me know by DMing me again. But if you are new to this position, if you're new to TAGT, which is your professional organization for gifted and talented educators and parents and families of the gifted, we would love to connect over email. So place that in the chat. That's all I got. No one knew this time. Oh, there we go.
Thank you. So
Awesome.
no one knew. Well,
if you did just DM me, I won't call you out, but I don't see an email address. So DM me with your email address and I will contact you directly. Thank you.
So the PowerPoint is slowly moving on and adding in, but I did see the question on the, could we use monies to pay for non-GT certified consultant to provide services to GT students after school? So here's the thing I'm gonna put with that one. Are they providing GT services or just services? So really be very clear on what they're doing. If it's GT services, one is, why are you using a non-GT person to provide GT services? So really think about that. If it's like after school tutoring, like for regular program services, I will not get in the habit, and this is just Monica speaking, not Monica TEA, Monica speaking. Why would you get in the habit of paying for a non-GT person to provide services? Because that opens up the door for, when they say, well, you pay for this, and when it comes to that professional development, you're going to say no, because it was not from a GT certified person or related to that. They're going to start looking at, well, you pay for this, why are you not paying for that? So really stick to develop in your programs and in your policies and your procedures, what are your guidelines for how you're using your monies? Because once you open the door or the window for any other uses of your funds, that opens the rationale of why can't we use this also? So really be careful on that. And that's just Monica speaking, not TEA Hat speaking, but Monica speaking. Someone's out.
I feel compelled to back up Monica on that statement. We fought to get this funding returned and targeted for gifted students. And if you start allowing that to go just for anybody or anything, you're going to lose it again. It's assumed it's not needed. So if you have money allocated for gifted, use it for gifted, be able to justify and defend everything that you do, keep good records, and always complain you don't have enough. But if it's for gifted, use it for gifted, or you will lose that funding. That's at risk. So thank you, Monica, for saying that.
All right, so it looks like it has linked and up, so you should be able to get the PowerPoint from today. And one last thing, this is about it, a couple others. Remember that the summer 2022 Lone Star Academy camps are open. The nominations actually close this Friday. So here's the info, the link to that if you want to send some of your students to go to that. They also usually have opportunities for scholarships. So this is just something to make your pride notice to either your students or your parents as an opportunity.
Monica, I haven't shared this with anyone yet, but we've secured some additional funding for our scholarship program, which is one that leadership. Oh my God, what was that? You just had the slide up and the name just flew right out of my head. Education in Action. Yeah,
Yes.
Education Action runs the Lone Star Leadership Academy. Anyway, we have 2 senior scholarships worth $2,500 each. And one of them is named after Laura Allard, the first executive director of TAGT. It's called the Laura Allard Future Vision Scholarship. And her family has reached out and they are interested in increasing the amount. So we will have at least one $7,500 senior scholarship this spring. And we're looking to really make an impact in rural underserved districts, which may not be you, but I still would love for you all to help us promote that. I think that's a really great opportunity and makes a much larger impact than a $2,500 scholarship. So more information will come out on that and the process will change a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to keep you guys aware of that and keep your eyes peeled for that in January, February timeframe.
Thank you for sharing. And so I'm looking at the chat. So let's clarify. So when you, I think a lot of people do use that term GT certified kind of just to mean that everyone that has a certificate is really out there. So GT trained, as I think it was Audra put it out there, is those people who have their 30 hours. And that is the only thing that's required within the state is that you have your 30 hours of GT training and your and maintain that with their 6-hour update. That's a trained GT person. So those trained GT persons can provide your PD, can provide your services, because that is what the state law requires. Now, those who are certified with GT has a GT supplemental certificate, or some of our older people who have been in the profession a little bit longer may have that older endorsement. There was 2 different endorsements at one point, plus the supplemental. So that's going to be those who are certified in GT, okay? So that's the difference, is if you have that certificate or that endorsement added on to your regular teaching certificate. If you are trained, you have a certificate that says you have 30 hours and you have completed that, or you have your 6 hours. So those are the differences between those. And so basically what we're really looking at is if you are a GT trained person, yes, you can provide training, you can provide services to those. And yes, certified trainers, yes, you must be trained. So there's nothing in the law that says you cannot have, that you can, your supplemental supersedes the training. So I just want to make sure. So a lot of people do the training, get their supplemental certificate also. So it's not a vice versa. And so really looking at that. A lot of administrators at one point were pushing for everyone to get as many certificates as you can on your teaching certificate. So that's why a lot of people went out there. So yes, that is not changing. Your 6-hour update will still have to be maintained no matter what you have out there. So got a question, where do you go to get your 30-hour training? Your 30-hour training depends on your district. Either it's done in-house, or you're going to your ESC, or you're going to outside vendors who are providing those services within that. So there's different options. That is part of your program decision on how you do that. Even those who have a master's in GT, right now, a lot of this could be, you have to look at this as your local district. Now, as we look at this, our law says you have to have 30 hours within this. Now, how you as a local district who is making that decision, look at your courses, look at the materials that people are providing to you, that is a local district decision. I'm not going to jump into that conversation with you. We can have one offline, but that might be another PD question later down the part, but we're not going to jump there. Hopefully everyone is checked out Equity and Gifted Education, looked at the website, looked at the tools and the resources that are available out there and enjoying it. Also, if you are not getting our announcements, it's coming about time for another publication to come out, or to the administrator address letters. This is where you sign up for those. You can find that also on the main webpage as we go into that. And then my contact information, and once again, we will not meet again, which will be in the afternoon at 1 o'clock on January 18th, 2022, in the new year, so that we can all, don't have to worry about, I know during this season, you got conferences, you got breaks. So it's really just kind of, we're going to take a little pause and a little holiday. All right. Any other questions, wonderings? And if not, we got 5 minutes. I see that question, Nancy. I like my GG Tuesdays too, but I just knew that, everyone's going to be busy for the next probably 2. And so we'll be all right. Go back. So here's the thing on the master's and on the education programs. If you are looking at those and you want to use those as a local district, just remember, it has to meet that 30 hours, what we're looking for there. Now, if it's related to GT and you looking at it and you'll say, okay, this will be accountable, that is a local district decision. I'm not into that. What you want to also make sure it is a GT course, because some of the emails I've received is something in early childhood. That will not count, okay? If it's a GT course on identification and assessment, you can make that decision, but then you can also make the decision of, thank you for getting your master's degree in education ed, but to keep our local accountability, we're asking everyone to have these same 30-hour trainings. So that is your local call, that is your decision. You need to make up your processing for that. I will take some of these questions about the graduate programs and going into that. And taking your, okay. And so as we go into that, really looking into with our CAC and having that discussion, how we can give you a little further guidance on that. Just remember, when you're thinking about your PD, you're really looking at what's tailored for your program and what is happening in your district. Remember, we're looking at same age, experience, and grade. Age, grade, and environment. I'm sorry. So when you're thinking, some of these graduate programs are very general, and it's not necessarily tailored for either the state of Texas or for our program. So really thinking about, be very careful on what you're choosing and what you're approving. So that's the only way I'm gonna put that one. It is 9:59. We have gone to the full max of our time today. So I want to say thank you. Hope everyone has a great day. I do have to jump to I have to go to put on my other hat of human trafficking to do that. And as we go into this next session. So thank you. See you in January. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. And take care of yourselves, everyone. So